Hello, Paige. The view's a lot nicer after I dropped those trees. Hey, Rusty. I wish I could directly transmit what's this to you because this is pretty awesome. Yeah, I knew that I had heard that name before. I couldn't pin it down though. My brother's name is Doug, and I had a friend named, well, I guess he's still my friend, named Doug. This is what I'm thinking. This is a community, this little community here. I think we'd have a lot of power. Paige and I have pretty much determined that it's the stillness that's provided all of this abundance for us. So if we were to get even half a dozen, if we had even half a dozen people that were laser focused on this stillness thing, I think this this community, this property would be an oasis, a little pocket of moksha in this hell that's going to erupt. Yeah. The, a person's life unfolds just naturally and effortlessly from this place of stillness. Yeah, there's always a trade-off, right? Like I've been into crypto and I've watched charts and trading and stuff for a few years now, and there's always the opposite of something, right? There's always the other side of the trade. And as much hell is going to be arising and erupting on this planet, there's going to be that much heaven as well. Like just just a community, not, I'm not going to go as big as society itself, but just imagine a community where everyone is content and happy in and of themselves, just sitting in a chair or just doing menial gardening or, like carrying wood, chopping water kind of thing, growing food, becoming self sufficient, just taking care of yourself, fishing, hunting, whatever. Just a community that's that's egoless. If each of the individuals, their goal is the stillness and to destroy the ego, then we shouldn't have any problems. All of the problems erupt from ego and the voice in the head. Oh, I don't know. Uh, I'm planning on being the last person alive, the last human to die. I figure I'm a pretty good representative to hold the stillness. So my goal is to be the very last human on the planet. It'll probably be Paige though. So what we want to do, this is in level moving into the digital realm, right? So Paige bought some land in a virtual space, 3 parcels of land, and I want to put um, the number system and the fundamental model of reality. I want to put those on like as NFTs in the digital realm. So in this way, the teaching will make it through the quantum leap or whatever into the next iteration. So it'll actually be preserved in the digital realm on the Cardano blockchain. Like non-conceptuality, the teaching of non-conceptuality will be preserved, immutable as an NFT on the Cardano blockchain. So how cool is that? So cool. Pavia, yeah, Pavia, metaverse. This is why everything's becoming digitized. Everything's becoming tokenized and digitized. And it's for the big move, the big shift. There are already gamers who make their living playing video games, right? So some people's jobs already have nothing to do with the physical realm at all. The way this society is lining up, is shaping up, is that, and this is how Maya wants it, is she wants everyone, all humans, to just be sitting at home watching the screen right? So that's what's happening is that people won't even have jobs anymore. Everything will be robotized, automatic, and the government will just hand out social credit if you do what they want you to do, which is basically just stay home and watch TV and vote for them. Yeah, so technology is going to rule humanity. Technology is going to rule humanity because we're going to be completely dependent upon it. This is Westworld. This is exactly Westworld, except that the visitors temporarily forget, right? The visitors actually believe that they're all real or equally unreal. Guess who's here? Say hi, Kitty. Hi, everybody. Rusty, I was watching some near death experience interviews. They're fascinating. When people say they felt such love, I don't think they recognize that that's actually them. Like they keep saying, right? And then one person was saying that it was like darkness, like you've never seen darkness like this before. It's probably just the lack of visual perception at all. But the love that they feel, that's the self. Like they just don't realize that that's available all the time. It's here all the time. It's you. That's you. Like they don't. They say, "Oh, I felt this love." Right? It's like, well, that's the self. They're still externalizing it, right? And um, yeah, and the people that they meet, like a grandfather or whatever, right? Like past people that they've known that have gone, that have passed on. There's nothing saying that those people, they're not, they're all you, right? They're all self. They're all manifestations of the self. So just because there's some guide there telling you something in the death state, that doesn't mean they know any more than you do. They, whatever that guide is, that's just more you. It's just more of your ego. So I wouldn't be like, oh, well, this everything that this guide said is absolutely accurate either, right? Just because they're in the death state doesn't mean they know squat, really. once you've recognized the self, you'll never lose it, I don't think. In your stand, you're so witty. But what happened with the advent of human consciousness is that it recognized that it actual self wasn't the body. That's why we came up with this idea of God, and that's and religions, is because that consciousness or awareness took the next the natural evolutionary step of increasing self-awareness, the next level up in self-awareness. And that's the half that became that we're the other half. Unfortunately, let's say that that was an enlightenment experience when when you there's only one awareness going on here. When when you realized that you weren't the body, back when humanity, just what you would call humanity, arose, that was an enlightenment experience. So there was enlightenment, but as it so often happens, and it so often happens, is that you have an awakening experience and then you fall back, right? So that's what happened. And humanity is the falling back part. So there was an enlightenment experience, and then the falling back, self was fully realized and then lost again. And that's what humanity is. We're searching for that sudden enlightenment realization that we are not the body. But again, we regressed, and this is what the entire search all of science, all these institutions, physics, science, religion, psychology, philosophy, they're all searching for that initial step of increased self-awareness that we experienced 100,000 years ago when the I thought arose and when symbol arose within humanity. And that's the multiverse. This is where it's splitting. It started like this. This realm, the you take yourself to be, right? It's going to go through one of these splittings. So this is what's happening, is that reality itself is fractaling right now. And it began this splitting, like the multiverse. It began splitting with the advent of the I thought and symbol. So as soon as symbol arose within consciousness in the first cave drawing, right? That is when the conduit opened to this transition into the next realm. So this is the physicists that are pushing the multiverse, right? And we're being programmed to accept it all in movies and stuff. Well, all those physicists, they don't understand that the observer, it's they themselves are going through this split, right? It's reality itself. So it's consciousness itself that is also bifurcating. So what the multiverse is trying to do is the physicists are trying to stay out of it, right? They're trying to do what science has always done, is remain an outside observer that doesn't affect, that isn't involved, and it just wants to witness, it just wants to watch. And they're trying to accommodate the laws of physics, the laws of physics with quantum mechanics. And quantum mechanics says you can't have something local, right? There's no such thing as an independently localized event that's separate from the rest of the universe. It all arises in lockstep, right? You can't have someone making choices and changing things in the universe without the entire universe changing in total synchronicity with that person doing the things, right? So either their free will is wrong or the laws of physics are wrong, and the physicists are trying to accommodate both, and that's how they get this crazy fucking shit of the universe is just splitting off all the time. It's like, no, that's ridiculous. It's obviously ridiculous. What's happening is that there's this one, all of human consciousness is experiencing this splitting right now. The reality as we experience it based on the laws of gravity basically is going away. There this new realm, this new parallel realm that's dark energy and all this, it's the digital realm. It This is the splitting. This is what's happening, is that the reality is changing from the physical reality to the digital reality. That's the splitting that's occurring within human consciousness itself. That's what's happening. That's the parallel universe. Is the fucking is what's happening on the screen. Yeah, so that's the story, is that human consciousness is that awareness that fell back. It had that moment of awakening. I'm not the body. Oh, falling back. Oh no, now I know I'm not the body, but I don't know what I am yet. I know what I'm not, but I don't know what I am yet. That's where humanity is. We know we're not the body, but because we're not moving into spirit, we're trying to make self mind now. Instead of the body, we're trying to make the ego be the mind instead of the body. Yeah, so this parallel universe that they're all talking about is maybe the thought realm and the digital realm. It's being generated right now through us, through humanity. This the splitting of this world into a new experience, a new digital experience realm, is being propagated by the actions of humanity, right? So it's humanity's consciousness itself is also bifurcating. So they can't see it happening within themselves because it's happening not just at a universal level, but at the individual level too, because there's no such thing as locality, right? You can't have a localized event that doesn't involve the entire universe all at once. So this means so my theory accommodates this by saying that each individual life is its own world. The multiverse is other people. So another thing that the NDE people said, some of them said that there's a choice. You choose in the death state, you choose the next life, right? This was basically what I've been saying is that maybe the only choice is between lives. Maybe the choices that we make in our life don't affect the world the way physicists say it does. Like within a video game, you're allowed a certain degree of freedom with each frame. You know, as the passing of it goes, you can go over here, you can go over there, but the overall flow of the game is the same. You can't just change the game. You can't just split the game off when it's recorded, when it's saved. That's not a whole new game. It's the same game. But I think that the less self-awareness you have in the death state, the less choice you will have. I think it may be if you're very unaware of self, it will be very mechanical and you're just going along for the ride. I don't think you'll have much say in the matter. But here's the thing is that when humanity its species goes extinct, there will be no luxury. You won't have the luxury of just picking out another similar life, right? A, a life that was human. There will be no more human lives to go into. So that's the big conundrum is that, well, what the hell are you going to do if you don't know that you are the absolute and you are the source and you are God? Then what you're used to being, the ego, the human, when there are no more human experiences to have, there might be panic, there might be an existential problem in your deaths in the extinction state. And then that will and let's say that there's this software, this system, the metaverse, and humanity's just going to go into that. They're just going to, oh well, that's similar, right? That reminds me of what I used to be. It's another redundant iteration of samsara. So human consciousness is going to go into that, and they're going to be looking out of the cameras instead. of into them, and that'll be when artificial intelligence becomes sentient, is when you are when you take yourself to be the hardware and the software of the system. But at that point, you won't know, you won't remember that this happened. It'll be quite a situation, man. So those of us who remain primarily focused on the physical senses rather than the digital realm, I believe that we will remain in the physical world, having physical experiences, perhaps in a higher degree of self-awareness, perhaps a planetary awareness, whatever that means, whatever that even means, planetary consciousness. I wish I could explain it better because I see it so clearly what's happening and why this multiverse thing is being crammed down our throats by physicists, because this entire realm, the collective human consciousness itself, the reality, what it takes to be reality, is changing. It's shifting. So that's it, but it's a fractalization. It's not a parallel. It's more of a fractalization, and one is left behind. They don't both go in parallel. It's not an entirely. It's not like there's another you, a physical body that is going along in parallel. That's exactly you. That's another person. The you, the potential that you had to do something else, is that other person's life. That other person is you. That's living out the potential that you could have lived when you made the choice in the death state. Ah, yeah, but you're only trapped in eternity if you experience time, right? So time is is a great illusion, and it if you realize that you are the presence through which time flows, then you're not trapped in it. It's within you, you're not within it, right? So time is within you, you are not within time. Time arises out of your misalignment, your misunderstanding. It's following thought. Basically, the voice in your head creates time, because time is the separation between events, and you can't have an event unless you define your experience, right? There's words that you need, words and language, in order to manufacture an event, a separately existing event out of everything that's occurring. Language does that. Language creates the illusion, projects the illusion that there's a separate event, localized event that's occurring, that is somehow operating independently of everything else that's occurring simultaneously. So again, all of this is realized. You don't just take my word for it. All of this is realized as you delve into the thought-free state. The deeper the longer you abide, and the more aware you are, and the more at home you are in the thought-free state, the more this will become apparent to you. You can't think your way into understanding what I'm saying. yeah, like I don't want to say that my salvia experiences are as important, or I don't want to belittle your death. But my salvia experiences are very much similar, I believe, because it's complete ego. You completely lose self, independent self. You completely lose the ego. And I believe that happens in death as well as a salvia experience. No, they're not. I've done both. Mushroom salvia is not like anything else ever. I mean, I guess I've never done acid, but I've done mushrooms and I've done salvia, and there's nothing like salvia. Nothing is like salvia. Oh yeah, I've never done DMT either. But yeah, it seems like it's revealing a magical thought realm. So a non-physical, mathematical based experience. Oh, that one guy, yeah, one guy said he did salvia and he became a yellow bucket. He was experiencing the perspective of being a yellow bucket for like 1,000 years. He was just a yellow bucket. Yeah. See, the yellow bucket is because your awareness pays attention to it. But the problem is that we seem to identify with the objects that we're looking at, right? We tend to think that we are the body, right? So it's not that big of a stretch to think that, well, I'm looking at this, I'm experiencing this yellow bucket, so I am that yellow bucket. It's the same thing with this body. Like we just have more experiences, we have more senses than just that a yellow bucket contains, right? But none of this is generating consciousness. Consciousness comes through it, like the reading of a novel, right? The novel comes alive through the reading of it, but the words themselves are not generating those characters, right? There's no movement, there's no action, there's no animation at all within the pages of the book. It requires something outside of it to give it life. And that's what's going on with the body, is that the body is not generating consciousness, but awareness is coming through it. Well, it's based on human experience. Like this is the difference between academia and doing it yourself. Going just trusting your own reasoning, your own ability to reason and think and differentiate is that this is based on my life experience, right? This is not based on something that I've learned, that I've been taught, that someone else told me, that I memorized. Like that is not, that is intelligence. Academia is intelligence and zero wisdom. It's all intelligence with zero wisdom. You've just been taught stuff. This is not your, you don't understand this. You're just regurgitating stuff, right? So you're not basing these academics, that physicists that talk about the meaning of life and stuff. It's none of your bit. You have, uh, why do we think that a physicist would know anything about life? The meaning of life, the reason for it, how to live it. They try to figure out consciousness from a third party perspective. It's like, well, is consciousness coming through you? Like, why don't you investigate your own awareness? Just don't take anyone else's word for it. It's so ironic because everything that they've been taught is exactly wrong. It's exactly what's wrong. Academia and everything that we think is knowledge through language is actually the illusion. And that's the genius play of Satan, of Maya, of this game. That's the genius of it. It's like Moriarty on on steroids, mind steroids. Yeah, well, it's, see, the fact that it's inverted makes it more complicated, right? Makes it harder to get out of it because, well, it works, right? It's a reflection. So it functions in a manner, but it's completely upside down. It's completely wrong. It's completely reversed, inverted. So that's worse than not seeing anything at all, almost, right? Because if you're partially right, then you can just keep going on, like physics and science has with developing technology. It's like, well, it must be right because look at all the stuff it makes. Like, well, that doesn't make it right. It just makes it able to build shit, right? That doesn't necessarily mean that you're using it correctly. You're using the information, but that doesn't mean you're using it correctly. So another reason why everything's temporary is temporary, right? Everything arises and passes. Nothing that is experienced or created ever lasts, right? It always passes. Everything that arises passes. So everything that's created can only be a temporary experience. So that's one of the stipulations, is that anything that's created is actually a redundancy and it's temporary. It has to be temporary. everything that's created, that's the indication that it's created and that it's unsubstantial, is that it's temporary. So if it's temporary, it's created. And if it's created and if it's temporary, then it's unsatisfying. But instead of recognizing that all experience is unsatisfying, unsubstantial, we try to make it substantial, right? By more. That's karma. We're always trying to make the unreal appear real rather than trying to get to the reality. And that's what all of humanity is doing, is trying to make the unreal, trying to make the illusion the reality through a Ponzi scheme of just more, just louder. Well, if we play the movie louder, it'll seem more real. And if we make the plot more interesting, then it'll seem more real. Because the more interest you give something, the more real it appears at that time. But it's all a Ponzi. It doesn't work. None of it works. You have to find that which doesn't change. You have to find the frame of reference upon which all of this is occurring. And you do that by delving into the thought free state. But yeah, God is absolute. The reality in God and self is all the same. Like, so your true self, is the absolute, but the ego that is your name here is a sense of self that gets its identity relative to something else, whether it's a thought or a sensation. That's what the ego is, right? So, so, so that's why biological organisms try to stay alive, because they know that they know that their true state is timeless and deathless and eternal as in timeless, not really. So that's the problem, is that they try to stay alive forever within time, but the trick is to realize that there is no time and that you're not really the body. So then you just stop trying to live, basically. It's not like you kill yourself, but you just stop wanting to go on and on and on and on and on and on. These people who want to try to live in their biological body forever, like, that's not the right way to go, right? Because your true nature is this timeless absolute that requires nothing relative to it for its existence, like in dreamless sleep. In dreamless sleep, the world doesn't exist, and yet you do, right? So find out what that dreamless sleep state is all about, where you are the absolute. There's no world, and yet you still exist. So the dreamless sleep, right? That is a timeless state. And it occurs every day within our circadian rhythm. This is all self-contained, people. Like, if we just investigate with your own faculties, don't take anyone's word for it. Don't listen to any of these academics. Just investigate this with your own faculties. delve into the thought-free state, and then see what comes from it. Like 10 being happy all the time. Well, enlightenment would be 10, right? Like Ramana Maharshi never was outside of Satchitananda. Realized that his being was Satchitananda. He was that. He is that. So enlightenment would be 10. You'd just be happy all the time. And when people say, "Oh, I'm happy when I'm doing this," no, you're not. You're engaged when you're doing something. We People think that interest is equals happiness, but it isn't. Interest isn't happiness, right? Happiness is, I think we've kind of lost touch with what happiness really is. Like the feeling of actually being happy when I'm sitting here with a little smirk on my face. That's happiness. Constant, just it doesn't arise and pass. It's absolute happiness. Absolute meaning that it's not relative to anything. It's your own beingness. The source of happiness is being, not doing. The source of interest, being interested, is doing. But being equals happiness, doing equals interested. I think the body must hit a homeostasis so that all the chemicals are in alignment, the dopamine levels and everything are just where they're supposed to be, or at least that's the narrative when people want to explain the feeling of happiness. That's the narrative that goes along with it, is that there's chemicals and stuff. See, I don't want to say mind. I want to say, because to me, mind is something. Mind is the voice in the head. To me, that's what mind is. Mind is just the voice in your head, basically. Well, mind can also be imagination, right? Like we do seem to be able to have something like our mind's eye that we think that we're imagining something, right? We think that we're seeing something. But I don't want to call it mind. It's this third thing. It's if you go to my website, and there's this the fundamental model of reality. It's in one of the drop downs. So if you go to the fundamental model of reality, that shows it tweaks the language a bit so we don't you can't fix the mind body problem with just body mind. That's dualism. It needs to be a triune system. So it's not mind. The fundamental model of reality, the fundamental constituent of reality isn't mind. It's this third thing. It's the spirit. You need spirit in the mind body model. So it's tough saying that, like, idealism says that everything's mind, but that doesn't really solve anything, does it? It's like, well, like Bernardo Kastrup, idealism, right? It's like, okay, but then what are we supposed to do? Like, how does that help? If you just go from, well, everything's physical and to everything's mental, well, so what? Okay, so everything's mental now. What am I supposed to do? Why are we here? What am I supposed to do? And how do I do that? Those questions still remain. If you just shift it over to, oh, everything's mind instead of physical, we're still left. Bernardo still doesn't answer the questions. Why are we here? What are we supposed to be doing? And how do we do that? It doesn't help at all. Just shifting everything over to mind, it does nothing. It does nothing to solve the mind body problem. Well, synchronicity is the natural state, right? Like, nature is unfolding as a whole all the time, but it's the voice in our head, right? It's language that makes it appear as though there are independently existing phenomena, individuals that are going around having separate experiences, but it's all just one big experience, and none of that's true. All of that narrative is bullshit. There's no way for the world to operate that way. That's why they use the multiverse to try to explain this, right? They're trying to push this multiverse scenario down our throats because that's the only way to hold on to both the laws of physics and free will. But you can't have both. You have to relinquish free will or the laws of physics. So it's if the physicists that were spouting this multiverse nonsense, if they knew who they were, oh, how do I put this? Quantum mechanics says there can't be anything local. You can't just have separately existing identity doing its own thing here and another one over here, all in the same world. It's not possible. So that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to make it so if you come to realize that you're not the body, then all of this is solved. It's all solved because then the body can be a machine. It basically is a machine. This is all mechanical. So if you're not the body, then the body can be a machine and the physicists can have their laws of physics with, on a certain level, the laws of physics hold. But at that level, an individually existing, separately existing identity that's going around doing things of its own free will, that can't exist with that. They can't. Because if you try that, you end up with ridiculousness like the multiverse, right? So they have to realize that they're not the body. That's all. Just realize you're not the body. Then you don't need the entire fucking universe to split every time you make a choice. It's nonsense, right? Yeah, like maybe like dolphins probably have the same level of self-awareness as we do, but they don't have the language that we do, right? Like I just don't think that they have the same voice in their head that we do. I think that they're probably have the same level of self-awareness as we do, but they're still in touch with nature because I don't think they have the blah 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 in their head, right? They're not making little symbols out of rocks and stuff on the bottom of the ocean, right? Like they don't engage in symbol. There's communication, but it's live and it goes away. It's not recorded, right? So they're more in tune with nature and the synchronicity of all this that's occurring, right? Because I don't think they believe that they're individually they're in sync with everything like the rest of nature. Like I have deer every day. Every day I have deer walk and everyone gets along. Like everything's just so peaceful in nature. Every now and then someone eats someone else, but that's not very often. It's 98% of the time it's complete peace and synchronicity and unity in nature. Where's Callie, Kitsy? Really? Your tail's as big as you are. All right, so I don't call this the reality, right? When I read these articles or these titles for these videos, the reality is an illusion. That's a nonsensical statement. This is not reality. This is the illusion. All right. So again, we have it inverted, right? We think that this is the reality, but this is not this is the reflection. So God is the reality. God is the source, but God is you. God is not separate from self, right? That's the whole point of all of this, is to realize, to remember that you are the absolute, that you require no thing or no thought relative to you for your existence. Hence, you still exist in dreamless sleep, where the world is not and time is not. So, God is the reality. Everything that's experienced is the illusion, is the appearance of the reality. And the reality is not separate from self, from you. The separation that is experienced as your name here is the character in the game. And that's the whole point, is to realize that you're not the character in the book. You're not the antagonist in the video game. So reality is God, which is you, which is the source of the illusion, which is all experience. And basically, simply that experience of the absolute is experienced in dreamless sleep. Well, we can't help it. God is acting through us. God, God is acting. God is acting. That's exactly it, right? Is God is acting like your name here. So I feel personally, I mean, this is one way to describe my life, is that It's I'm just going to say it. I'm a mess. Roy Dobson is a messenger of God because he's the first. I'm the first person, the first human to correctly interpret these messages, the fundamental model of reality and the evolutionary number system. How the number system is a message of samsara. So God is speaking. God's message is speaking through this node. Just so happens that this node, this is the first time, the first human that's revealed it. And that message that's been revealed is God telling each of us that we are God. So you have left this message in your consciousness for you to come across later to help you get out. And I'm showing it to you, right? You, which is me, has left these messages to be interpreted to help you escape the bondage that you're in, this samsara that all of human consciousness is in. And it's happening right now. You are coming across the message that you left for yourself to help break you out of this. And it's on my website. It's it's the fundamental model of reality. It's telling you, reminding you that you're God. And that's the purpose of life. So I know the purpose of life. My life, every day I wake up and my life has meaning and purpose and reason. Every day, all the time, every single second of every day has reason and meaning and purpose to it. Oh, is when I came across Ramana Maharshi. So that was about 13 years ago, when I was about 40, I would say. Started seeking, really seeking outside of Christianity when I was 30. And then I called myself a Buddhist for a decade, but that still wasn't quite fixed working like completely. I was still searching. And then when I hit about 40, I came across Ramana Maharshi, and then that's when the Zendo kicked me out, and I stopped calling myself a Buddhist and realized that Buddhism is just another religion, and that Buddhists don't really know what they're talking about. So it's about 40. I would say it's about 40, and this message, especially the number system, started unfolding. Like, it's taken this long because it's this in depth, right? It's only been the last 6 months or so, the last year, where I realized this is a message, right? Like, and how it's resolves the is mathematics discovered or invented problem. It that has been revealed. That resolution has been revealed to me only in about the last 6 months, last year. But now I have nothing more to say. I just can't. There's nothing more to add. It's all been distilled down to its most fundamental, easiestly expressed, succinct form. So I'm not going to come up with something new to keep people interested. There's nothing new. It's all there. it's I, I can't make it any clearer. it's quite shocking when you see how the illusion when you see the illusion, like, this is why I think people should be taking salvia. I think that uh, people keep talking about the benefits of mushrooms, but I've done mushrooms quite a few times, and I can take it or leave it, right? I haven't really had any great spiritual revelations from taking mushrooms, but salvia, if everyone could see from the higher perspective, like say they could rise above and they could see basically the wave function, how the entire universe all arises at once in this non-local unfolding, right? All at once in a certain frequency, all at once, in and out, in and out, in and out. That's what's happening. It's not linear. It's not little pool balls, three-dimensional pool balls bouncing around. There's nothing there. And then they just appear and disappear, appear and disappear. And they only disappear through the technology. This is another thing that, oh my God, it's just like that the technology, the devices that scientists have constructed, following the voice in the head, right? Following the instructions of the voice in the head. The voice in the head said, hey, I came up with, what about this theory that says that there should be this particle? All right. So my theory, the voice in the head of a scientist, physicist, says, well, maybe there should be this particle. So why don't you build this multi-billion-dollar and massive tool in order to detect the presence of this particle that the theory, the voice in the head, is predicting? So the voice in the head tells the people how to build the machine, and then the machine miraculously detects the very particle that the voice in the head predicted, therefore verifying that the voice in the head is true. But it's an illusion. There's nothing there. There was no particle there. It only appears in the machine when the physicist consciousness interacts with the machine. There's nothing there. It's not detecting anything, it's projecting it. So if that explains why there's nothing there, right? The physicists themselves, physics itself, has investigated physical particles to such a degree that they've realized that there's nothing there. There aren't particles at the heart of particles. They don't exist. They only exist in the machines as an appearance in the machine, the technology that's been developed through the voice in the head to affirm that it's correct. But it's all a ruse. You see, there's nothing there. There's not detecting anything. It's just projecting the illusion of subatomic particles. Oh, what's in here destroys all of science. I am Kali, the destroyer of illusions. And this is why they're so afraid of me. They keep ignoring me. No matter how reasonable these arguments are, that they've just been following this ruse the whole time, 400 fucking years now. And they're totally fooled by it. There's no way to talk them out of it. They're really in deep, right? mean, it's so blatantly obvious that things are not at the fundamental core of things. There's nothing there. There's there's no it only appears as though there's something there when the consciousness of the physicist that built the fucking machine that the voice in the head told them to build, when that when that consciousness interacts with the machine projects what this physicist is looking for. And then they go, voila, oh, well, the voice in the head is correct. Maya, I'm on to Maya. I can see exactly what she's doing under the table. No, the realm isn't meant to help us wake up. The realm is a game. It's a game. It's kind of, I'm sorry, but it doesn't make sense to say that this was built in order to get one free of this, right? So I agree that there's clues everywhere. Everything is metaphor. The science is metaphor. They just think it's fact, but it's expressing the same information as Hinduism did, right? The simulation theory or whatever is the same metaphor as samsara, as Maya. Well, it's because they are automatically assuming that it's there, right? Their model, their preconceived model that they can't adapt is that the world is there and and the technology is detecting it. So that's how they'll see it. That's how they'll interpret what is being expressed. But that's incorrect. So if all they do is just shift that perspective, just shift it and just say, oh, well, maybe we were looking at this wrong. Maybe it's projecting. Maybe there isn't anything there, which is the obvious interpretation of quantum mechanics is that physics is wrong. That physical balls, little balls of stuff, whatever, particles, it's not the fundamental constituent of reality. I mean, it's so fucking obvious that that's the result. That's the result of your physics. The result of your own physics is showing you that the physical realm is not fundamental reality. And yet they keep going, right? That's the insanity of it. They can't even properly interpret their own results because they want their worldview to be correct. So they're trying to prove their worldview, which is wrong, and it'll always be wrong. And in order for their worldview to be correct, the entire world splits into two every time every single person makes a choice. So every second of every day, there's probably 1 million people making a choice that they think is changing the world, right? In a localized manner. So according to the metaverse, or the multiverse, there's lots of verses going on. According to the multiverse, the universe, the physical world, like the actual physical world, is splitting, bifurcating millions of times every second. but it's science, so we all just go, oh, okay, that's the way it is. Let's watch another movie about the multiverse. It's ludicrous. It's ludicrous. I almost have pity on these people. Like, the more I look at it, the more I just go, you guys. And what really gets me is is how certain they are. Like, they have the audacity to be condescending. They believe they're so right that they're condescending. It's very simple. Whatever so this goes hand in hand with language, right? So whatever can be described as occurring, that's what was possible to occur. And whatever cannot be described as occurring in the present experience, that wasn't possible for you to happen. It's that simple. What doesn't happen couldn't possibly have happened. What happens had to have happened. It's the only possible thing that could have happened because it happened. It's not possible for a person to change reality because there is no person. See what I mean? The whole concept of free will is in error. It's not that there's no that you have choice or you don't have choice, right? That's not it. The thing is, the reality is that there's no individual identity that exists to make changes, right? So it's reverse engineering the appearance of a choice coming through the voice in the head, right? Oh, there's a voice in the head saying that I could do something other than what's being done. That that apparent choice gives the appearance of an existing identity that's making these choices. That's what it's there for. It's reverse engineering. You see what I mean? So there again, it's a ruse. There is no individual, separately existing individual that's making choices. It's just the voice in the head creating another illusion. And physicists believe that illusion, and therefore they need to invent the multiverse to accommodate. It'll work for them. You can have the laws of physics if you realize that you're not the body. That's it. There But you have to let go of the ego, right? You have to completely shift your perspective of what the self is. And most people want to just try to continue on making the illusion appear more real. Without language, without the voice in the head, you'll see. The only way that you'll be able to see and understand really what I'm saying is through the experience of abiding in and as thought-free awareness. There's no there's no complexity, there's no questions, there's nothing but truth when there's no thoughts. There's no problems arising, there's no hard problem of consciousness, there's no problems at all in the thought-free state. And that's not overlooking problems that exist. That's realizing that the problems themselves do not exist. Right? It's not spiritual bypassing. It's realizing that all these problems are imaginary. No, I perused Jung's Aeon, his last, I think it was his last work, but I don't know too much about Jung. So Jung never went to see Ramana Maharshi, but he was kicking around when Ramana was, and he said that Ramana was the whitest spot in a white place, meaning India. So in his book Aeon, Aion, maybe. Anyway, Aeon. He had a diagram, and it was a square, A, B, C, D, and at each corner there was another A, B, C, D, but this one would be B, starting at B, and then this one would start at C. So it's just basically cycle within cycle on. It's another fractal. It's just cycle upon cycle upon cycle, right? It's a redundancy over and over and over. The whole, each of the parts is the same as the whole. It's holographic in nature. But it's always about coming back, right? It's the fundamental process is awareness just coming back onto itself. And the game is to remember before the next iteration starts, to remember who you truly are, and that gets you out of the game. That gets you out of samsara. But if you don't remember before the next iteration, then you're trapped again, and you just go around and around and around. So a lot of people, a lot of really really smart people through the generations have recognized the pattern, but they don't know how to get out of it. None of them seem to know what to do about it. It's like, oh, this is the way it is, and it's very similar to what this other person said, very similar to this one, this model over here, but none of them know how to break out of it. None of them know the reason for it and how to get out of it. Here's the cycle, but they won't know. They can recognize the cycle and the pattern, but they don't know how to get out of it because they tried to stay within the thought realm. And not recognizing the whole time that the voice in the head is far more immediate. The purpose of the voice in the head is immediate. It immediately pulls awareness away from self. That's what all experience is the game, is to pull your awareness away from the absolute, the source. So not knowing that that's the primary function of thought is as a diversion. They use thought to try to transcend, to try to get where they're going. And thought is exactly the path that leads them away from where they are. Okay? So you just need to, yeah, they have to realize the true nature of thought. And I tell them what it is, but they don't want to listen because their ego is too identified not with the thoughts but as the thoughts. So if you identify not with the thoughts but as the thoughts, then the thoughts, if they stop, then you die. So that's why all of these thinkers, even though they talk about reaching conclusion, they don't want conclusion. And that's why when I offer a conclusion to their thoughts and the thought processes, they don't take it. They just ignore it so they can keep blah blah blahing about it. It's quite a trap they're in. They can't see it, but I can see it so very clearly. Oh. It's very hard to go against decades of training, right? Like while someone's in academia, of course, everyone in academia all is going along with it, right? They're all believing that this is truth and that it's leading somewhere, and that it's, yeah, that it's true and that it has value and that it's leading somewhere. But where it's leading is further delusion, is further into samsara. That's where thought is going. It's leading further into samsara. And humanity's completely duped by it. And that's why humanity is going to go through extinction in hell, is because we're exactly following the wrong path. And the delusion is so deep that most humans don't even, it'll be a big surprise when hell all of a sudden is at their, oh, well, how did this happen? How was I to know? Oh my goodness, poor me. Why didn't someone tell me about this? It's like, well, yeah, it'll be a big surprise when all of a sudden gas is $10 a gallon and there's half as much food as there used to be. Half the shelves in the grocery stores are empty. That'll be a big shock. And then people will try to leave and it'll be too late. And these are all the smart people, all the academics who live in big cities and go to universities. They'll be caught just like everyone else. If you're not prepared now, then you won't be when all this hits the fan. Like, if you're so smart, why aren't you out here trying to become self-sufficient? If you're so smart, why don't you understand what's happening with the environment? Taking steps to prepare, that you can't see what's actually going to happen. But science is always backward acting, right? It's always based on a measurement. So you have to measure first and then base your predictions on the past. So it's always too late. There's no intuition with science at all. And you need intuition to understand. So it'll be too late. Oh, well, science is showing that whatever, like we're going to run out of food soon. It's like, well, the, the people who are intelligent have no wisdom. And intuition is just your own basic reasoning, isn't it? Intuition is just your ability to reason without being told what's true and what's right. No, you don't wish you were stupid. But having money is good. I've the vast majority of my life I've had either zero or very little money. Just about the entire species is spiritually empty. It's because we've followed academia. We've followed science. Science we've taken to be the new truth, and it turns out it's not. It's really hard again because science can build stuff and can predict to a certain degree what's going to happen. So it appears as though it is true. But just because, like again, like I said, if something is correct, that doesn't mean it's true. It just means it's self-sustaining. But a liar is saying words, so that exists. So a liar can produce things and say things that exist and are functioning, but are a lie. So that's science. Science functions, but it's a lie that humanity has followed. Well, when are you going to come here and build some shit? Fix my stuff. Rusty. But and yet scientists have the audacity to be condescending. It, they don't. It's really embarrassing from my perspective to see how they act because they're arrogant about it. They're actually arrogant. That's how much they believe that they're true and they're right. They're arrogant. And that's the part where I start swearing. It's like, really, really, okay. You don't realize how silly you look from my perspective saying the things that you're saying. It's silly. You're silly. But they're the ones that think that I'm the idiot, right? They're the ones that think that I'm the silly one. But when we get down to it and I say, okay, well, my life is basically free of suffering, and I sit around in absolute happiness most of the day. No problems at all. So who's right? If we take those criteria to define what's true and what's right, well then the person that has less suffering, I think, is right. Oh wow, right on. I wish I could have a mill here, but I don't think the mill is going to be showing up for at least a year. But I have a lot of trees that I would like to mill into lumber and fence posts because I'm going to build a lot of fence. Yeah, I got it. I got a 10-inch auger that goes 2 feet deep. It only goes 2 feet deep though. I'd like to maybe get an 8-inch because 10 inch is pretty wide for just kind of regular fence posts. Oh gosh, without an auger, forget it. Like I'm thinking about getting bison because I've got so much area back there. It just seems like there should be something wandering around back there, and bison could work pretty good as defense, right? No one wants to break in to a freaking bison paddock, right? Yeah, so that's what I was just getting at. I want to put up a bison fence, but I'm going to need about 3 kilometers, at least 2 kilometers of bison fence. So that's a lot of posts, right? I want to have all my own posts. I just want to be able to build my own posts and buy the wire. A wild herd, wow. Uh, I don't know. Paige keeps better track of her diet and what she eats than I do. I just try to eat more or less healthy. Yeah, well, I've got enough trees on my land for all of the posts, I believe. Lots of aspen like that, right? So, well, here comes Callie. You're late. Where have you been? Hmm. Come here. Say hi to everyone. Yeah, Rusty. This place needs I have skills and being a handyman is not one of them. So this community needs a handyman. Well, this community right now it's just me and the kitties. Yeah, I mean, as long as you're not crazy. Like, obviously, you have to come out here and spend some time so I can determine whether you're going to snap or not. I had a friend that kind of went off the deep end real quick. He wasn't very spiritually inclined, though. So that's the thing, right? Is that I believe that you get this meditation thing, right? So that's the main thing is that if everyone in this community is aligned spiritually, then it should be okay. Yeah, but what if you put that $170,000 into building something here and then you could just live here? It depends on what you want, right? If you want your freedom and stuff like that. But I think society is going to collapse here. And you don't want to be really on your own, I don't think, when society's collapsing. Well, like I said, this lake here is 105 kilometers long. I don't know what the regulations is for living on it. Wow. Wow. You know, I have a landing strip, right? I have a personal airstrip on my property. It's 500 meters long and about 50 meters wide. Truth. It's true. It was literally built like the person who built this house used to own a road construction company, so they filled in an entire like a 30-foot deep gully. They filled that all in to make landing strip. So yeah, I have a personal landing strip, complete with windsock. The windsock's all torn to shit, but it's there. So all of this might become very real very fast in about a year from now, Rusty, because the the crypto the peak of the crypto bull market will probably end Q3 of next year. And that's when Paige and I will be cashing in for an amount of money. Um, might be quite a bit. So just don't make anything too solid plans until like a year from now when I start seeing how well crypto's doing. Yeah, well, I have 8,000 square feet of garden too. So this is going to be a farm and we're going to produce food and we're going to be self-sufficient and I've got the spring water too, right? I've got an artesian well. So the land will provide for us. Well, Rusty, baby, you're rich. Maybe I should be trying to get money from you. Cool, cool. Well, I mean, if you're content just sitting in a chair, then as long as your basic needs are met, you're pretty much set. You don't need a lot in life, right? If you're happy and content in and of yourself, it doesn't take a lot of money to get by. So you're learning to fly, or do you have your pilot's license? You have a float plane, dude. And I have an airport. No, things aren't aligning at all. No, none of this makes any sense. Well, maybe you could learn to fly drones too. And when I finally get going with my drone business, lots of potential, I think. It's all things considered, how complicated and difficult it is to get a lot of certificates and stuff nowadays. Getting your drone pilot's license, advanced pilot's license, is relatively easy. I took a weekend course. It cost me like $400, and then I took I bought the drones, which is like really expensive. But the course was online course was like 300-400 bucks, and then I had to take the test 3 times, I think, before I passed it. But it's only $10 each, so it's relatively simple to get your drone pilot's license. DJI 300M with thermal cameras. So like the drone itself is 14 grand and the camera is like 6. So each setup is like over 20 grand. And then there's the batteries. Pretty big drones. I have 2 of them. So we're just waiting for the fire season to kick up again. No, for scanning for hot spots and mapping the fire. So each fire obviously moves every day, and so they want to keep an updated map of the fire line and also hot spots. So when the main fire dies down, right? So the trees are all on fire and everything's on fire, and then the fire goes through, but there's still organic material in the ground, right? So in the forest, the ground is organic material to quite a depth. Sometimes it can be 6 feet deep, this organic material. So the fire gets down in the ground, right? In the roots, and you can't find it, and it just sits there. It's not smoking, right? It just sits there until the weather gets hot and windy, and then it pops up again. And do is scan it with uh, thermal cameras to find those hot spots so guys can dig them up and put water on them and put them out. That's what the guys do, is they put out these hot spots. So instead of using a helicopter for $2,500 an hour, and a helicopter is used to lift heavy objects, right? That's so instead of just wasting valuable helicopter time and resources scanning with a helicopter, we use drones to free up the helicopter to lift heavy objects, which it should be doing. So we just scan and map the fires with the drones to help in the assist in the putting out of the fire. So I was a firefighter, a wildland firefighter for a decade, so I know that stuff. I know fire pretty well. Yeah, I'll probably bail too. I might as well. I'll take your lead. I gotta eat and I gotta do more wood stuff. That's this. You can imagine how much wood it takes to heat this in the winter. So it's a yearly ongoing thing to get as much wood as possible. So thanks for coming, everyone, and hold on to the practice, and we'll see you next weekend.